In today's tutorial, we're going to paint a beautiful landscape with blue sky, green mountains, and lovely flowers. So without further ado, let's get started. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Teresa, and in this channel I share art tutorials, so if this is something that you are interested, consider subscribing. And today I want to show you how to paint a loose landscape in watercolor, which is one of my favorite things to paint. And all the materials for today's project will be linked in the description box below. Feel free to check them out if you are interested. I am going to start by having a light pencil sketch just to mark all of the factors that will appear in my painting, such as sky, a mountain, lake, and the front area. The front area. You can use the pencil to sketch as well, and later on just use an eraser to remove some of the lines so that the pencil line doesn't break through when you're painting. Or you can just use any neutral paint color diluted with a lot of water, and also use to mark your painting as well if you don't like the pencil. And now I am going to apply the paint, starting off with the sky by mixing two colors, ultramarine and cerulean blue. For this part, I am going to do wet on wet, so I going to wet the area first, and after that apply the paint. So you can see because we apply the paint on the wet surface, so the color appears to be very light and subtle, but don't worry, if it's too light you can always go back and apply another layers later to make it look darker. And for now I will move on to the mountain. I use sap green to draw the mountain line first, and since this is a green mountain, I want it to have a different shade of greens. So to make it happen, I apply the mixing colors on the paper techniques, which basically I'm just gonna apply the different colors directly on the paper and let them mix together. So to have a different shade of greens, I am going to use yellow, lemon yellow, sap green, Varroa green, and a little bit of ultramarine or paint gray to have a dark green for the shadow. And in order for all of the colors mixing well together on the paper, make sure that you also wet the surface first before you applying the colors. So basically this is also wet on wet techniques as well. And next I am going to move on to the foreground. They're actually the lake between the mountain and the foreground, but I'm just gonna leave it blank for now and come back to it later. For the foreground, on the left side will be the dry grasses. So for this one I am using two colors, yellow ochre and brown. For the first base layer, I am mixing these two colors together and dilute it with a lot of water to lighten up the mixture for the first base layer. And on the right side will be the flower bush, and I am using also the same green that I used for the mountain for this one, and also mixing the color directly on the paper so that it's gonna look more vibrant. And next, when the first layer of the grass is completely dry, I am going with the same colors but more saturated and start painting into the upward motion. It looks like that I am drawing the line, and make sure that you have the lines in different directions so it look more natural and organic. And next, on the dry side, when the green layer is completely dry, I start adding the flowers. Here I am using the permanent rose for the flowers, but if you want your flowers in different colors, feel free to do so. But make sure that the green layer is completely dry before you adding this the flowers, so that the colors don't bleed into each other. And here, as you can tell, that I'm not really painting a real flowers. I'm just kind of putting flops and color the flowers, and that's it. Since it's a loose painting, so that's what you should do too. Don't focus too much on detail, but rather focus on the impression. And now I'm just adding some greens in the front to represent some grasses. And I'm using also the same mixture of colors that I use for the mountain and the greens, which is yellow, Viridian green, sap green. And that's it. Just keep it simple, keep it loose. No need to pay attention too much to detail. And next, back to the flower push, I am adding more green into the push. This is a little bit darker green, and after that I am adding the darkest green tone to represent shadows, to have it more contrast and make the bush more defined. And the same with the flowers, I just kind of go back and add a little bit darker tone of pink to give them a little bit of definition. And now back to painting the lake. It's pretty simple. I use the cerulean blue for the lake, and the first layer will be very light, as you can see, and later on I just kind of add lines in different lengths to represent ripples, and that's it. That's for the lake. And now going back to the sky, I am going to add more colors into the top of the sky on two sides. And for this part, I am applying ultramarine blue. And at this point, the sky is already completely dry. So I go in and wet the area with the clean water first, and after that apply the colors, so that the colors gonna spread naturally. And you can also use a clean brush to remove some of the pigments for the sky to represent clouds, and remove and use the brush into a different motion to create some sort of movement for the sky as well. And now I am going back to the mountain and adding more pigment into certain areas, because I feel like the mountain look a little bit flat. So I am adding the dark green into a certain area to create shadows and also give them a little bit more contrast. And finally, I am going back to the foreground and adding the final layers, and it should be the darkest value to create shadows and contrast for the foreground. And if you wonder why I have to move back and forth to different areas to paint, it's because in watercolor sometimes you have to wait for one layer to be dry before you can apply another layers, so that the colors don't bleed into each other. And finally, to finish up the painting, I am using my micron pen and adding some bursts into the sky to create some movement and make the painting look more alive. And ta-da! The painting is done. Now the most satisfying part is to remove the tape, and yeah, this is the final look. I hope that you find this tutorial helpful and you enjoy it. And if you do, please don't forget to give me a thumbs up and share this video to anyone you know that might be interested. That would help me a lot. And subscribe to my channel to see more art tutorials in the future. And thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.